my name is Dorina ZLOTA and I work for the Romanian Ministry of Education and Research, and I will present my paper with the name The Readiness of University to Use Predictive Learning Analytics for Students' Retention and Academic Success. The article proposes an analysis of the readiness level of university for using the predictions available through system of learning analytics in order to ensure the academic success of students, especially for those at risk of dropout. The article focuses on the orientation by the involvement of the teachers and students in order to determine the academic success based on an approach built from bottom up, using small data benchmarks derived from the analysis of processual perspective of learning and the learning analytics built within the big data systems available in the university environment. In line with the intention to determine a holistic construction of a bottom-up approach, we propose to analyze two necessary elements: the need to identify and effectively use qualitative variables within the learning analytics by referring to the life cycle of the studies, and the degree of preparation of the effective implementation of an approach based on small data through roles assigned to the teachers from the universities in order to retain students and ensure their academic success. Well, the academic success is a complex concept. A thematic report made at EU level offering a suggesting description in this regard as a multi-dimensional concept including dropout, retention, study progress, study duration, completion and transition into the next level study or the labor market. Still, the data that is available across Europe on study success is diverse in terms of availability, data collection methods, definitions. The academic success also involves a side that is strongly oriented and determined by the teachers and students themselves, which can imply a strong investigation about the qualitative factors related to the analysis of a processual perspective of learning. In order to configure ways of reporting students from current generations to the success of academic studies, it is interesting to find out what their perceptions are about this issue, a useful perspective being provided by O'Shea and Delahanty. By accepting multiple forms of success reporting at policy level and at the level of opinion of students themselves, it may be encouraged to recognize how different understandings of the meanings of academic success must be taken into consideration. The approach we use in the study about student retention will be based on the analysis of challenges related to configuring a strategy for using the collected, modeled, and used data regarding the specific of processual learning perspective. The starting point for building a learning analytics approach is found at the level of databases and the level of each university, based on which the monitoring measures are carried out, at least quantitatively, of the studies of the annual cohorts of students. The first question aims to clarify the type of studies life cycle, the starting and ending points being associated with the academic calendar. In completing this initial data, we can consider to collect some more specific information about the characteristics of the student cohorts, not only demographically, socially, or statistically. For example, a qualitative predictive of learning at the initial level might consider data derived from interviews or motivational essays realized by students admitted for first years of studies. This kind of data sources regarding students can guide the teaching staff in designing courses and applications, starting from the preliminary motivations expressed by students in relation to the learning process. Such variables might be initial factors for predicting the learning in favor of the early limitation of the effects of eventually risk of early leaving studies. Forms of intervention with predictive value correlated with databases is already practiced by some universities that have developed early alert systems. as a technological solution to improve not only the learning environment but also to support students. In fact, the retention of students means much more than early warning based on certain types of social demographic data or semester annual grades. Given the time frame required to trigger at the risk student retention, it becomes necessary to determine when we should start looking for symptoms and causes of the risk of dropping out and when to start an intervention at the right time. We should also be concerned about estimating the time required to perform an intervention, as the time period elapses between the manifest risk checkpoint and the student retention point to allow optimal implementation of the recovery intervention. Otherwise, its implementation being possible to fail or not to be able to lead to the desired results. The need to complete big data regarding the moments of the life cycle of studies, both from the moment of starting them and especially during the studies, with data regarding the quality of the studies, that is now saying learning issues imply the capture specific data with regarding the perspective of learning process, respectively the progress, regressions, recording by the students during the studies. By placing ourselves in an approach of analyzing the process of learning, we can note the fact that some universities already implement informatics instruments of learning management analysis systems meant to provide personalized interventions to support learning by students and teachers. According to Huang and others, learning analytics can help identify the status of students and the problems they face in the learning process. A longitudinal study conducted in higher education in USA regarding interventions based on the use of learning analytics, which synthesized 24 case studies, show us that the intervention practices were the most frequently focuses on increasing student performance, providing personalized feedback, and improving their retention. Among the qualitative factors of the learning process monitored in the longitudinal study, we note some examples that we can correlate with the academic success factors specified by students in the study conducted by Sarah Koshia and Janine Delahanty, and that we mentioned in the beginning of the article. But which are the necessary steps to prepare the use of learning analytics prediction from the procedural perspective of the learning state captures for a certain moment to the students and risk of leaving the study by correlated with the need to involve teacher staff? We envisage the change by identifying ways of attracting students to learning process with an alternative design by practicing emergent flows of personalized support and stimulating the creative and socio-emotional potential of the students. The teachers are those who have an essential role to play in transforming the ideas collected from predictive learning analysis into support and effective interventions to help the students in the learning process. However, for many teachers, it is a challenge to be able to filter the relevant information from the virtual learning environment into the predictive learning analysis tools and access data with predictive value about their students. Otherwise, information about the inadequacy of studies in relation to students, prediction without action, have a limited value because the relative lack of design and the evidence of the intervention make it difficult to replicate the validation and scaling of a potential impact of learning analysis. In a recent attempt to present a holistic model design, a group of authors wonders if universities are ready to tap into a potential benefits that data and analytics will bring to them, considering that the difference and the challenge are not limited to the problem of retaining students, but more broadly to the implementation of data analysis within institutions. The big data derived from the use of learning predictors provide quite versatile information about teaching and learning situations, which require interpretations regarding correlations between students' behavior and learning. Therefore, in order to reach the implementation of this data produced by learning analytics, teachers are the only ones who should come up with small data that it was Martin Lindstrom defined as tiny clues that reveal big trends. In education, these small clues are often hidden in the invisible fabric of schools. Understanding this fabric must become a priority for improving education. The small data in the field of education refer to events that occur in the transactional level of learning generated between teachers and students, and which, if used in timely, with empathy and personalization of learning, can generate early decisions and interventions with real chances of retention by the students in situations at risk. In other words, the state of preparation of the learning analytics system leads us to enable the use of small data, that is, to enable teachers to reflect and perform alternative metacognitions regarding the quality of teaching, while empowering students to engage in reflection on their own learning in order to combine this information in alternative ways of improved learning. If the big data about capturing the learning process presents the advantages of a data volume as well as the processing speed, when we discuss the intentions of ensuring academic success, the readiness measures need to be oriented towards capturing the qualitative variety of the data, but also the truthfulness. And here, the effective involvement of teachers and students at risk can make the most significant contributions. Therefore, academic success can be analyzed and determined from the perspective synthesized suggestively by Pasi Sahlberg. The ideal solution for sustainable improvement of education is a mature combination of big data and small data. One thing seems certain: if you don't start leading through small data, you will be led by big data and spurious correlations. In order for a university to move towards a database paradigm in terms of ensuring the premises of students' academic success, the process is one that requires careful preparation and support through the institution. Given the complexity and dimension of a changing model, it is desirable to introduce a piloting phase, which can be implemented at the faculty level, with a limited number of specialization, but taking as a reference point the existence of a relevant number of students in risk situations and who initially intend not to continue their studies. For operational reasons, it is useful to outline an institutional strategy that allows the implementation of a learning analytics system according to the needs of a pilot structure and the workflow of the operational unit represented by students, teachers, and process supervisors of learning that can emerge on a modified basis. Beyond the possible intentions of universities to try to use big data and predictors derived from learning analytics in order to increase the success of students' studies, the potential for using this kind of data can also be effectively used by governments for planning and designing future policies, education in relation to focus interventions to sustain the retention of students during their academic studies. Some such recommendations applicable to public policy projects might consider establishing pilot projects for student retention within the study programs, the approach based on learning analytics presented in this article being a variant to consider, training the teaching staff from universities to use the tools of learning analytics, big data and small data, in order to use the emerging learning processes applicable to the students at risk, highlighting the need to create new support professions for the higher education segment, professions to support without replacing traditional teaching roles, such as learning process analyst or profiler of support services for training categories. Or another measure, proposing studies of analysis of the optimal routes of organizing the learning during the study programs in universities versus the implementation of the profile of successful graduate at the level of employers and based on the expectations of current students. Therefore, without being able to say about the use of learning analytics that it can be an universal solution for ensuring the academic success of students, we can only imagine the impact of possible interventions based on small data and learning process predictors on profiling curricular scenarios for future study programs offered by universities if they were correlated with the needs of students to ensure access to professions that do not currently exist in the labor market. Thank you.